Without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Curtis Salgado and Alan Hager. They are absolutely amazing. Curtis is a stage 4 liver cancer survivor. He's also a blues musician. He won the 2010 Blues Music Award for Soul's Blues Artist of the Year. Great. And he went on to win again in 2012 and in 2013. And so here they are.
Would you please give this class act right here a 9 round of applause? Thank you. I'm going to use this because it's a little louder if you don't mind. My name is Curtis Salgado. I come from the Northwest. And this morning when I got up, I come from Portland, Oregon. And I was thinking to myself, you know, I'm wearing my Buc-ee's T-shirt, and I live, in Texas and everything. I was thinking, God, I wish I was from Texas, because then you could say you're from Texas because I do blues. You just don't. Or like, what kind of barbecue do you eat? Oregon barbecue. It just doesn't sound good. It's Texas barbecue. What kind of barbecue? Texas. That barbecue last night, anybody have that stuff? Yeah. I guess so. Texas barbecue. And then Oregon just doesn't have that ring as like, you can call yourself Tex, like what's Tex, what's your name? Tex. You can't say, my name's Ori or Oregon. I'm from Oregon. It's just not as cool. What kind of music do you play? I play Oregon blues. I play Oregon soul, rhythm and blues. I play Texas blues. See how that rings out? So I love your state. That's what I'm saying. Otherwise, I wouldn't be wearing a Buc-ee T-shirt, for Christ's sake. So I do very much so. And Alan and I play rhythm and blues and funk and soul, rock and roll. I'm on a record label called Alligator Records, and we tour back and forth. We were just here in your fine state last June, and I come through here about once a year. I met Suzanne. She somehow contacted me, and Alan and I have been doing liver symposiums since about 2006, 2007. Okay, on with the story here. Now, I have the most comprehensive in-line story of what happened to me, because I haven't done this in a long time. I haven't spoken in a long time, and if you guys don't mind, I'm going to come from my heart, but this helps me guide, all right? So if you don't, here it is. It goes like this. Imagine that you're a self-employed professional musician and you don't qualify for private health insurance thanks to pre-existing medical issues, and you left your state's high-risk pool because you couldn't afford the high monthly premiums, which was $770 a month. I cannot do that. Then you get the news, which feels more like a verdict than a diagnosis. I was given 6 months to live. I had a tumor the size of a lemon. It was 5.5 centimeters. And the rub was this, that 0.5 centimeters put me out of line for a no-go for a transplant. So how I found out I'll just tell you now, being a knucklehead, I was an intravenous drinking, drug-doing teenager on the way up to about 1988. I just went, I got to quit this. I'm going to kill myself. I like myself too much to kill myself. So I got into AA, NACA, and I took myself into treatment, and I've been clean and sober for 28 years. Yeah. I don't tell or judge people, whatever your faith or whatever. I just do, that's up to you. I'll do the driving. It's fine with me. It's just not for me anymore. So that's how I take it. I'm not a preachy person. However, even though here I am preaching. So anyhow, here I'm doing this and clean and sober. And about 2 years afterwards, just by coincidence, I have a friend of mine who was a PA, a physician's assistant, very smart young man, who said to me, I got nauseated for eating oatmeal for breakfast, a little quick oatmeal. I go, man, I don't, and then I got sick, and he said, man, I'm going to have you checked out. And so he took me to the doctor, and they took a blood, and then they did some biopsy, and it turns out that I had cirrhosis of the liver, but they didn't discover any cancer yet. I just, okay. And then they offered me interferon. And the interferon then only would, the type of interferon they had was kind of new, and it wouldn't cure you. It gave you about a 68% chance to cure. So I said no to it. And this is why I ended up getting, because as we know, hepatitis C is the leading cause of liver cancer. And so a couple of years go by and more, and I kept saying no to the interferon, because the backlash of it is that when you take interferon, it gives you the flu symptoms. When you get the flu, it isn't your body, I learned this, it isn't your body that, it isn't the flu virus that makes you sick, it's your body fighting the flu virus. I thought that was interesting. Like, so do I want to get up on stage and inject myself with the stuff that's going to give me the flu and be sick with the flu for 4 days out of every week for a full year? That's 52 weeks in a year. I said no to it. And I kept saying no to it up until 2006 when I went, maybe I should, it's better now. There's a high cure. They had a different kind of cocktail going on called a Pegasus, that they were calling it. It was a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It was the rate of cure was, about 80% or something like that. So I went for the chance to do it. And just when I got the money, I had no health insurance. And the reason was basically is that it was costing $770, and this guy came and said, well, maybe you should go with us because we can get you a cheaper health insurance. And I said, okay, but I got hepatitis and I want to have it checked out. He goes, well, let's not talk about that. And this guy basically was just he was about to retire, and he was signing me up just so he knew that they weren't going to take me. But he goes, let's just not talk about the hepatitis right now. We'll work with that later. And I signed on the dotted line. A few months later, that insurance company called me up and said, you lied on your... I said, I didn't fill out the form. Your insurance man did. His name is so-and-so, and I read his card, and they go, well, he retired about a week after you signed. So basically, he was getting commission, and he didn't even care. I thought that was kind of, what? So now I don't have health insurance, and I'm trying to get this hepatitis C medicine, and I get a gallstone attack. And it kind of seems like I don't even need this. So anyhow, I get a gallstone attack, and it knocked me on my keister. And so I call up a girlfriend, and I said, can I come over and hang out in your large king-size bed and watch, because I have this gallstone thing going on, man. She goes, okay. So she comes over. She's very nice to me, and so go over, and she took me to her house, and I was kicked back in the bed, and I'm watching whatever it is I'm watching, and this pain won't go away. Meanwhile, she steps around the corner and calls up the doctor who's helping me get this hepatitis C medicine and says, hey, Curtis, and he says, get him to the emergency room. And meanwhile, this is unbeknownst to me, I'm watching television just trying to chill out from the pain. And she comes around and says, I called the doctor. I said, what, you snitched on me? I mean, I can't afford this. I can't afford this. God, go to the hospital. I don't have any health insurance. She says, she thinks you should go. I said, no. And then about 3 a.m, I woke her up and said, I think we should go. And so we went. And then now I'm clean and sober. And for the first time, the doctor comes in and he goes, okay, well, we need to give you some painkiller. And I said, I haven't done this in a long time, but he says, well, how about morphine? I said, no, that makes me nauseated, but I'll take some Dilaudid if you got some of that. And he did, and I felt great. And I was about to get up and go. I'm all spiffed up on narcotics, and I'm about ready. And they just go, nope, by law, you got to go up because your gallbladder is gone pretty much. And so, what? God, now I'm in the hospital. So Monday, March 13th, I'm thinking money's just flying out the window. And and the doctor comes in. His name was Paul Hansen. He puts his hands on me. He goes, hepatitis C, huh? How long you've had it? I said, I've been doing drugs since I quit in 88, but I've been doing it since my teenage years. And he goes, well, we're going to give you a biopsy. I go, why? Well, just to check it out. Now, he already knew because he is a surgeon who does, gallbladders and small tumors, and he also, tonsils and stuff like that. And he kind of already had his eye on it, and he came back. They biopsied me, and here's my story. Starting here is they biopsied me, and then they didn't come back with any information. And by this point, it's Thursday. So I went in Monday, and now it's Thursday, and I'm thinking, God, this is what, $1 zillion I can't afford. So I left. Said, if they haven't got any news, I'm out of here. So I went home, went back to the lady that, was taking care of me or, being a pal to me, and she picked me up at the hospital, took me back. I woke up the next morning to Paul Hansen, who said, hey, buddy, you need to come in because we did a biopsy, but you need to come back. And I said, why? He goes, well, I said, did you miss the spot? Because they kind of mentioned his team. You had a spot, I go, he goes, spot? Who said you had a spot? I go, your partners in crime. He said, you don't have a spot. You have a tumor the size of a lemon, and I think it's cancer. And I just stood up. I just leaped out of bed and just stood there and just looked to the heavens, literally sat cross-legged on the floor and screamed the F-bomb. I just went, boom, like this. He goes, you need to come back. We don't have enough information, da-da-da. And I was like, what? And here's the whole thing, and I'll be blunt, and every one of you know, I'm just going to say it out loud. When you're told cancer, it isn't, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of a death stamp, but it's how. Somebody just told me how I'm going to die. I don't want to know how I'm going to die. I want to go to sleep, I want to go, good night, honey. And then, next thing you know, I'm wherever it is I'm hopefully going to go. But I don't want to know how. And that's what's scary. It's just like, you got cancer. This is how you're going to die. This is how you're probably going to die, da-da-da-da-da. Man, nothing focuses life so intently as being told that. At that moment, a lot of things in my life changed. Just the focus of just how it just makes everything brighter. Well, hello, little spider. How are you today? The leaves, just surviving. What's going on? You just don't. And everything is so meaningless, really. It isn't meaningless in terms of family and love and spirituality and religion or whatever your church or what you're doing. It's just meaningless. What? It's all kind of ego-based. And it really is all about love. And I already knew that, but this really turns it in. It just focuses up. Because right now, one day at a time, that's my thing. It's just one day, just hope, have your friends, take care of one another. There is enough to go around. That, it just changed everything about my life. And one of the things that came into my life was, drum roll please, Ron and Suzanne. And next thing I know, I'm being invited to go to Chicago to talk at a liver symposium. Now my story gets crazy. During this time, I was talking about this lady that, I had broken up with a woman that I'd been with for 12 years. We're still friends to this day. She plays a part in this story. And, she didn't like me being a musician. I'm gone all the time, and so we parted ways. One day she knocks on my door, and this is just the day after I was told this. And she knocks on the door and says, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Just out of the blue. And I said, it's good to see you. This is what's happening to me. I got 6 months to live, and I got cancer. And she says, well, we need to do this, and this, and whatever. And I go, I've already got somebody doing this. But so you're dating someone else? And then she's off and running. I go, hey, I've got 6 months to live. Can we skip that fact? Whatever. It's nobody. And this girl, eventually, Andrea was her name. She just got on the team, told the other woman to, I think you should let me handle this very nicely. And I'm blessed. I'm still friends with both of them. But she said, let me handle this. And Andrea quit her job of 6 figures, moved into a garage, had her brothers drywall it, and then she put in a refrigerator, her bed, and a computer, and and got a medical dictionary and started looking at every single transplant center you can get. And in doing so, she calls me up and says, hey, what do you think of Omaha, Nebraska? I said, well, I play there a lot. I actually have a fan base there. I got a lot of friends there now. So why is that? She goes, nobody else is returning our call. And basically because I'm 5.5 centimeters. So I'm just 0.5 centimeters over the 5 centimeters. At 5 centimeters on down, you can't get your MELD score for rules and regulations. It's too high of a risk. So I was called outside criteria. So I was outside criteria. So she goes, what do you think of Omaha? And that's while I was talking to this nice lady over here who was talking about her daughter. And I said she played a big part in saving her daughter's life. And the reason is you make these decisions. And even though all these people came to help me, how am I going to pay for a transplant? And my manager threw together a benefit. And my girlfriend quits her job and gets in and gets on the computer. And this whole miracle thing started happening where basically the concert was Steve Miller, Fly Like an Eagle, came to play for free in a coliseum that they donated to me. Bonnie Raitt paid my rent. Robert Cray Band played for free. Taj Mahal played for free. Everclear, who just had a #1 hit, alternative rock band, they're no longer around, but at the time they were topping the charts. So it was Everclear, Taj Mahal, Steve Miller, Curtis Salgado Band, and Little Charlie and the Nightcats. And, that's kind of an odd lineup, but people were buying tickets, $250 a seat. The Coliseum donated, all we had to do was take insurance. Long story short, because I don't have much time, long story short, it paid for my transplant. I had to get a transplant. Obviously, you can figure this up. So there's that. Here's the other miracle. That's the first miracle out of many. The second one is that Andrea is going, you don't have time. You got 6 months, and it takes almost 2 years to wait on the transplant list. So I'm going to give you half of my liver. Now, we broke up. So I'm going like, oh, man, I don't want to take half your liver and go, thanks for that. I'll be seeing her now. The guilt was just, I don't think so. You go, you don't have a choice. He said, you don't have a choice. Okay. So we go, we check her out. That cost about $42,000 just to have her tested. And all this is adding up. People around the West Coast and the Midwest and some on the East Coast are doing benefits to throw into a kind of a fund that we had in the bank. And so I just started doing all these tests. And here I'm trying to get to the punchline. So with Andrea, we go to Omaha, and she's going to give me half her liver. And just a few days before that, this doctor comes in, and he's the head honcho at Omaha. He goes, Curtis, I've been talking to the powers that be, the people that decide who gets a MELD score and who doesn't. And my MELD score at the time was 11. And do you guys know what a MELD score is and stuff? Yeah. So I had 11, and it goes up to like 40. The sicker you are, the quicker you're going to get a liver, in this. And so I was at 11. And the guy goes, so we decided to give you a MELD score of 24. That puts you right about even. And I said, why are you going to do that? I mean, I'm going to take half of her liver and what they call a partial, and I'm going to take it in 3 days. Why do you even, he goes, well, who knows, The odds are slim, but I think he knew something was up, And so this transplant center was whipping out a transplant a day. And she goes, well, let's see what happens. And 2 days later, the phone rings. And this little side note, Andrea goes, answer the phone. I said, you're closer to the phone. You answer the phone. She goes, answer the phone. So I get up. It's about 4 a.m. They go, hey, go take a shower, put on your PJs, Curtis, and get down here because we have a liver for you. And it was like, what? So we don't have to take half of her liver. And she would have been in more pain because, So it's just like, and then her mother, who was supposed to come in and take care of her from this operation, so Dre stayed there, and then my sister came, and both my sister and Dre took care of me. And I got a liver transplant. That's miracle number 2. And then number 3 is when I was diagnosed, and now I have a transplant, I'm recovering. And I cannot speak higher, by the way, a little advertisement for Omaha, Nebraska. They really did push the envelope, and I've actually hooked 2 other people up with them, and they've got transplants there. Anyhow, I'm getting around to the end here of my story. So the doctor comes, and it's a surgeon. It's a lovely 38-year-old woman who smart as an atomic scientist, and comes in and goes, "Curtis, we still have your old liver, and we've gone over it with a fine-tooth comb, and we see a microscopic invasion of a small blood vessel." Remember, this was a race to get this out before it metastasized, which I forgot to mention. So hurry up and get this out. And so the doctor says, it could be or it could be not a mess. It's me. I said, "What do you mean? Does that mean microscopic?" She goes, "So small you can't see it." And I said, "Does that mean it gets in the blood vessel and takes a subway out?" And she goes, 50-50 chance. I said, "Would you have done this transplant?" And she said, "No, we would not if we'd known this. But maybe it won't happen." A year later, it did happen. We saw a spot 8 months later, and they took out a section of my lung around a tumor. So there, I've had, the doctor comes in, another woman who's a scientist, and goes, "Where are the others?" And I said, "What others?" She goes, "Other tumors. You're immune suppressed, you're taking steroids, and you only have one small tumor. You're a miracle." And she gets up and walks out, and I'm going, "Wait, I got more questions." She just leaves. Then, 5 years later, it came back again. And this time they took the bottom half. So I've had cancer 3 times. I'm coming up on my 5th year. I'm doing the same thing a lot of you are. I get checked every 6 months. I get my blood work done. I'm now sitting in front of you right now as we talk on hepatitis, the new hepatitis medicine that cures you. And I'm taking it right now. I don't have any side effects and stuff. And I'll find out here in a week or so whether or not it worked. And so that's where I'm at. I get checked at another 5-year level. I may have cancer. I may not. And I learned this. The punchline here is that Suzanne said something to me that I passed on. I have 2 friends right now that have cancer, and they're in trouble. And I said this to them, and it was the best thing. Suzanne passed to me, and I passed it to them. And I said, I have a friend named Suzanne in Texas, and when she got cancer, the first thing she did was adopt a baby. Like, who does that? I mean, talk about confidence, And that's and the other one is she goes, "You live with cancer. You don't have cancer. You're living with it." And so I'm living with cancer with the rest of you, and I want to thank you and I just love all of you. We're all on the same team, and I pray for you all. So thank you so much.